Thank you very much. And now we come to the highlight of our morning session today, which is the speech from our leader. Now, I could introduce him, or some of his Stormont colleagues could introduce him, or many of you could introduce him. But we thought this time it would be better to get somebody who really's got the goods on him and knows how to, all the ins and outs. So can I, with your pleasure, invite to the podium to introduce our leader, Linda Bryans.
Thank you so much for such a warm reception. I tell you what, one of the positives of the Ulster Unionist Party is that you sure know how to make a girl feel welcome, so thank you so much for that. I want to mention a couple of friends, if I may. Many of you will know that there is a woman who is normally here. She is a legend by the name of Myrtle Cook in the Strangford constituency. And my husband's never done telling people that he was a school's international athlete. When it comes to canvassing, though, Myrtle, in spite of giving him a few years' advantage, leaves him in her shadow. So we miss Myrtle today, and we wish her well. You will all also know the other absent friend today, because I'm referring to this party's chief whip, Robin Swan, the MLA for North Antrim. The Swan family, Jenny, Robin, and their baby Evan, are in hospital today in Birmingham, and they've been there now for a number of weeks. I understand that Evan in Irish means young warrior, and Evan is certainly that, because he battles the complications that require really complex surgery and medical attention. The difficulties of the Swan family are compounded by being separated by the Irish Sea from their natural network of support here in Northern Ireland, as well, of course, from their young daughter who remains at home. And this is a situation that Robin and his family find themselves in. It illustrates why so many of you in this room find it regrettable that the Department of Health sends children to England for cardiac procedures, long after an independent assessment in Belfast found that Belfast procedures were safe and that surgical procedures should have resumed. I know that Robin and Jenny pray for Evan to come safely through his stay in hospital, but they also pray that their experience will encourage the Department of Health to maybe look again at the impact of what they are doing. There's an old saying that if you don't have your health, you have nothing. And I know that very well because I talk about it regularly, my own experience of poor mental health. A long time ago now, but the memory of that never really leaves you. And I know, as well as that, far too many of our citizens in Northern Ireland endure poor mental health today. And that's why I'm delighted that you're about to hear a truly major proposal to tackle the trauma that is endemic in our society. So I'm conscious that the only thing standing between you and that announcement is me. So I'm going to finish now. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome my husband, the MLA for Strangford and the leader of the Ulster Unionist Party, Michael Nesbitt.
Please be seated. Good afternoon, conference. When we say never, 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 we mean never, ever, 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 ever. Of course, other brands of unionism are available, like the one that did the deal to get into power in 2007. We never did hear what the deal was, did we? I don't know about you, but I'd like to know. So reveal the deal, DUP. Reveal the deal, because I don't see the benefit for unionism. In fact, I'm not sure I see any benefit from Northern Ireland. So I would like to know. I do know this. I see the benefit in this man, Jim Nicholson. Jim has unprecedented expertise in Europe. He has status in Europe. He has a contacts book in Europe. And at a time of continuing uncertainty about our future in Europe, we should all be delighted that Jim is ready to go back to Brussels after next year's election and continue to do what's right for Northern Ireland in Europe. Thank you, Jim. Jim Nicholson stood firm against the so-called Peace Centre at the Maze. You stood firm, and innocent victims stood firm, even when Northern Ireland's First Minister said we all needed taken away by men in white coats. By men in white coats. That was the widows of murdered police officers he was talking about. That was the RUC George Cross and the UDR Regimental Association and prison officers and thousands of innocent victims, he said, needed taken away by men in white coats. And one of his DUP colleagues called us nutters. And the Deputy First Minister was no better. He said we were in league with extreme loyalists. Are you extreme loyalists? I think not. And yet, these are the politicians that the voters put their trust in 2 years ago. These are the leaders of the parties the voters have trusted at the ballot box for many, many years now. But don't you sense, just sense, people want change? Don't you get the feeling it's time for parties who will take responsibility as well as taking power? To those who are fed up with bad decisions and badly timed decisions and a lack of decisions, I say this: there is a better way, you know, and it is called doing what's right for Northern Ireland. It's what we do. We did it 100 years ago to ensure there was a Northern Ireland. We did it again 15 years ago to ensure there was a Northern Ireland with a chance of building a better and a peaceful future. And we're ready to do it again because Northern Ireland, once again, needs a pro-union party at the heart of government that will put the country first and do what's right for the people, taking responsibility and not just taking power. It's what we did with the so-called Peace Centre at the Maze. Now, that proposal was wrong because it put too much emphasis on the victim makers and it trampled on the sensitivities of those they hurt. Our focus must always be on those who were given no choice about becoming a victim. And at this point, conference, let me address some points to Republicans on dealing with the past. To Gerry Adams, who says he was never in the IRA, to Jerry Kelly, who shot a prison warder in the head but said it was not an act of terrorism, and to Martin McGuinness, who told the £200 million Savile inquiry there are parts of his past he will never discuss, quote unquote, under any circumstances. To Messrs. Adams, Kelly, McGuinness, and the rest, I have a simple message. You're not always right, you know, and you won't always get your way, you know, because we're not going away. And we know how to fight a successful campaign. We forced Peter Robinson into a massive U-turn on the Maze, and we did it without a riot, without a street protest, without so much as a white line protest. We used brains and not brawn, and that is the way forward for Northern Ireland. We did it over the Maze, and we did it over a quite scandalous set of teaching notes about the hunger strikes. And for those of you who missed it, a constituent approached Joanne Dobson with teaching notes for a book which is called Bog Child. Now, let me say we've no difficulty with the book. It was the notes that were the problem. The book's about the hunger strikes, but the notes suggested children should start thinking of Northern Ireland in comparison with Nazi Germany or apartheid South Africa. The notes went on to suggest that if you were on holiday somewhere and you said to somebody, "I'm British, but you live on the island of Ireland," they'd laugh at you. And the notes suggested that the sons and the daughters of prison officers were ashamed that their fathers worked at Her Majesty's Prison Maze. Wrong, wrong, wrong. And we forced a rethink, and we forced a rewrite. Thank you, Joanne. And there's another fight that we're very much committed to. We will resist with every brain cell we have the Republican campaign for equivalence. The notion that there is no difference between a dead IRA man and a murdered police officer or a soldier is wrong, it is abhorrent, and it has nothing to do with the spirit of mutual trust we signed up to in 1998. What some Republicans refuse to acknowledge as they rush to try and rewrite history is that they had a choice. I was born just in time to live through the Troubles. It was a time of civil rights movements, the United States as well as here, student riots in Paris, all the rest. There was a common thread. The common thread was that people were trying to transform the state they lived in, not destroy it. The civil rights movement was cynically exploited by those looking for any excuse to try and terrorize unionism into surrender. And if I forever associate a united Ireland with no warning bombs like Bloody Sunday and Le Mans and the rest, is that my fault? Republicans chose it should be that way. And of course, the Belfast Agreement enshrines their right to persuade me I'd be better off out of the United Kingdom. But all available data suggests very few on either side of our traditional divide are so persuaded. Frankly, I believe that history will record that among the many, many things the IRA blew away was the chance for a united Ireland. And by contrast conference, in a few months' time, Scottish nationalists will see a referendum on Scottish independence. Not a gun discharged, not a bomb detonated, not a single act of terror required, and yet in securing a referendum on independence, Scottish nationalists have achieved more peacefully than Irish Republicans have ever done. Republicans chose violence. And let us not be afraid to remind a new generation, a generation that has little or no interest in these matters, that Republicans killed 60% of those who died in the Troubles. Loyalists accounted for a further 30%, so there isn't anything approaching equivalence even in the number of deaths, never mind in the motivation. The Ulster Unionist Party will not stand idly by as others attempt to rewrite history and paint the state and its agents as the villains. That simply is not what happened. People made choices to try to defend the state or to try to destroy it. The bottom line for me is this: there's no difference between the Al-Qaeda attacks of 9/11 in the United States, the bomb at McGurk's Bar, the IRA's Enniskillen bomb, or the Omagh bomb. They were all acts of terrorism, and all terrorism is wrong, period, end of. My conference, what is missing in the Maze debate at the moment is an alternative to the Peace Centre. And today I want to offer that alternative to you, an alternative that will address the hidden legacy of the Troubles. which is poor mental health and well-being. I am sorry to report we are world leaders in this field. So, having created the mental health problem, let us commit to fixing it. This is my alternative to the maze. Let us create an international mental health facility, a facility that will be a global center of excellence to help those who suffer trauma, whatever the cause. I am talking about being the best in the world. Having spent 45 years creating more post-traumatic stress disorder sufferers per head than just about any other country on the globe, let us build a legacy project that cures the problem. Let us commit to helping restore good mental health and well-being to our people, and not least the young, who self-harm to the point of suicide. And be in no doubt, people born after the ceasefires are among those suffering the trauma of the legacy of our troubles. So let us do it for them. But also, let us raise our vision, conference. Let us raise it above the problems of the moment here. The world's been very generous to us with its commitment, its support and money. So let us repay the world with a centre that will offer help and hope to everybody. Let Northern Ireland become known as the go-to place for soldiers traumatised in war, for children traumatised by a gun attack on their school campus, and to the survivors of train and plane crashes. Making Northern Ireland the world leader for trauma care would be a fitting legacy project, not just for our citizens, but for the world. And let me be clear to you, when it comes to our past, this centre is for everyone, even those for whom we may feel little or no sympathy. It is for everyone, including those whose poor mental health may be a consequence of making bad decisions. Please support me in an international mental health centre conference. Thank you. Thank you, conference. I appreciate it. Now, that just leaves location, and I want to be clear, I'm open to debate about this. And wherever it is, it would only be a hub. Some people will be happy to travel to it. Others will need our experts to travel to them. That's just the nature of mental health issues. But on location, here's a thought, and it is no more than a thought. A number of years ago, the Assembly bought a building called Ormiston. It's quite close to Parliament Buildings in East Belfast. It's in public ownership already. We own it, but it's lying empty. It has about 15,000 square feet, and it's set on 13 acres. In other words, it's the ideal shell. And it could certainly be developed for a fraction of the 18 million euro the European Union had set aside for the Peace Centre at the Maze. Now, obviously, you would need local buy-in from residents for Ormiston, but whether it's there or not, the International Mental Health Centre is a proper legacy project that can unite our people and give thousands of our citizens the hope they so badly need that their dark days can be over. Victims and survivors need hope. We all need hope. We need fair government and we need responsible government. And that's not what we're seeing from the Sinn Féin DUP carve-up at the heart of our government today. There's nothing responsible about reducing 18-year-old women to tears because they think they're going to be thrown out of their care homes. There's nothing responsible about ignoring the Defamation Act that protects freedom of speech. There's nothing responsible about OFM, DFM mounting a power grab to take control of economic planning powers. In fact, it looks as if that power grab isn't even legal. There's nothing responsible about denying our people, the people who live and work in Northern Ireland, the full protections of the National Crime Agency, especially when we're more aware than ever before we have a problem with human trafficking. There's nothing responsible about an irrational blood ban or the Education Minister's attempt to change the common funding scheme in a way that will rob 80% of our primary schools of funds. Money the head teachers tell me they need for the most vulnerable in our classrooms, including those with special educational needs. Now, the Education Minister says he's consulting the people on the funding scheme. Yeah, with 3 days' notice, a public meeting he called in Omagh saw 4 people turn up. That conference is no way to run a country. The Ulster Unionist Party does not believe in doing business like that. We want to do what's right for Northern Ireland, and that means being fair to everybody. And it also means taking the responsibility that goes with the power. The failure of Sinn Féin and the DUP is very easily summarised. Their first response, their default position, when it goes wrong, shift the blame. I want a government that accepts the responsibility when it goes wrong and just gets on with finding a fix for the people. Everybody Conference needs hope. Hope that better days are ahead. And when I was a guest speaker at Fela and Fubbles at West Belfast Speaks Out this year, I was very surprised by the reaction to my opening statement. I thought I was stating no more than the obvious by confirming that any unionist who thinks we are going back to old-style unionist majority rule is badly mistaken. Those days are over. In fact, I said so in my speech to you this time last year, and I happily repeat it if it helps. The future is about building a warm house for every section of our society. It means a society where we can all aspire equally It means a society where we can all aspire equally to a better quality of life, to a higher standard of living, to be healthy, to be happy, and to have hope and to take pride in who we are. That's what I want for my children, for your children, for the children of nationalists, Republicans, or ethnic minorities, for everybody. We have lagged and lagged behind GB for too long in terms of prosperity. The politicians, of course, talk about the economy. What it comes down to is how much cash you have in your back pocket or your wallet or your purse. And compared to too many other regions of the UK, the answer is simply not enough. Our average wage is £22,000. In Great Britain, it's £28,000. So we need to raise our sights. I want our average wage up there with the rest. And Conference, we need to remember we have done it before. Our past has moments of economic glory as well as of terrorist shame. And as I said previously to Conference, 100 years ago, Titanic Belfast was the Silicon Valley of its day. We were global leaders in cutting-edge technology, admired and envied for all the right reasons. And in those days, we didn't need a block grant or subvention from Westminster. We were net contributors to the finances of the UK government. And I would love us to try to get back there again. Just try, because even in the effort, we will transform how we view ourselves. I am talking about restoring ambition, determination, and above all, pride in who we are and what we do, because I am proud to be Northern Irish. We need to remind ourselves of what we have achieved in business, the world-class feats in invention and engineering and in manufacturing. We need to go again with our sights on another golden era for our economy. And remember, we are a nation of small businesses. Foreign direct investment is certainly worth chasing, and it's worth celebrating when it comes and stays. And I applaud every successful inward investment the devolved government has secured. But that activity will never replace our own homegrown talent. The Ulster Unionist Party has a heart, and it beats to the rhythm of local businesses. And my message to local business people is this: we will support you evermore. We will support, we will listen, and we will react positively. You create wealth. You bring the new jobs. Your determination means there's money circulating the high streets and you provide the tax revenue that funds our schools and our hospitals and our roads. Now, Peter Robinson and Martin McGuinness travel the world seeking inward investment, and quite right too. A sliver of any Chinese market is as much as we can handle. But what conference is the easiest market to tap into? It is our own £3 billion a year procurement budget. Between the executive and our local councils, we have £3 billion a year to spend. And if you're looking for a pot of money to use to boost the local economy, there's no need to fly halfway across the world. The answer is here on our doorstep. And I have yet to meet a local business person who thinks we could not do more to sweat that budget to the advantage of our people. So let us look again at the basket of measures that we wanted to surround our big idea of corporation tax. And let us be bold in offering more support to local business in terms of procurement, rates, tax credits, energy supplies, and assistance to develop infrastructure. Let us, above all, start trusting ourselves and fostering pride and ambition. It is time to consign the era where paperwork and red tape and process are king to the shredder. Let us drive down costs and drive up demand. There are modern-day entrepreneurs out there. They're all around Northern Ireland. This party will support you all to the hilt. Let us, conference, bring Silicon Valley back to Belfast. The commitment card that you've been hearing about makes clear education is our #1 priority. Too many of our young people are leaving school without the qualifications they need to build a successful future. And in too many cases, it is not their fault, it's our fault. Of course, we also have high achievers. As Charles Dickens might have put it, to go to school in Northern Ireland today can mean the best of times or the worst of times. The challenge is to fix it for those enduring the worst of times. The answer is not to attack those enjoying the best. Sinn Féin's relentless assault on grammar schools is pure ideology. When he was Education Minister, Martin McGuinness commissioned a household survey of post-primary education. It was, in his own words, the largest consultation ever undertaken on an education issue. That was October 2001, 12 years ago. And while it made clear a majority of households didn't like the 11+ as the transfer test, the results were equally clear in reflecting support for the principle of selection. Martin McGuinness simply ignored the latter. Well, if you believe, as I do, that every child is unique, that inside every child is a spark of creativity, ability, and talent that may find its voice equally in the science labs or a music room, on the sports fields, or simply at a computer, then we must cherish all those talents. And we must provide a curriculum that will develop every scrap of talent in every child and provide space for all to flourish. The legacy of the decision to abolish the 11+ without agreeing a way forward continues to poison education in Northern Ireland, as Sinn Féin remain fixated on the signs that hang over the entrance doors to our schools. An Ulster Unionist Education Minister would refocus on the pupils and the parents and the teachers walking in and out of those doors. Conference, we want the Education Ministry. And if we get it, we will not bring back the 11+ because it asked the wrong question. It asked of a child, how intelligent are you? Wrong question. The right question of a child is, in what ways are you intelligent and how can we help you develop? And funnily enough, the two guiding principles of Martin McGuinness's household survey those years ago were that each young person should be valued equally and all young people should be able to develop their talents to the full. So we do agree when you strip away the ideology. And if you think Sinn Féin are not politicising the classroom, here are two facts for you. The Department of Education spent £22,827 on a consultation on a strategy to tackle the problems so many of our children face in literacy and numeracy. But in the same year, They consulted on a review of Irish medium education, something of interest to comparatively few. And yet, the Irish language consultation cost 46,000